For a little bit, he made it right back to this tree. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another video. First, I want to start off by saying shout out to everybody who's came in and subscribed to the coon hunting content. I'm glad you guys liking the videos. I'm going to keep pumping them out, and we're going to keep trying to get in the woods and get good footage of the woods. We're trying to upgrade our equipment so we can do a little bit better getting hunt footage and stuff like that. But this video, I want to go ahead and I want to talk about some common mistakes that people make when they're training coonhounds to hunt. I've made these mistakes. I know plenty of people who have made these mistakes, and it's not really that big of a deal, but it can be a pain in the neck, and it can just stubble you up a lot. So number one is expecting too much out of a dog, right? And this comes in many forms. This comes from misinformation. Like you've purchased a dog secondhand, and somebody has talked this dog up, and then you get a dud. This just creates issues, and this creates kind of a erratic place where you can't work from, and it really gets you nowhere to expect a whole lot out of a dog, especially to expect a lot out of a puppy, or to expect a lot out of a just need to be hunted dog. So that's the number one mistake, is expecting too much out of a dog, whether we've been told to expect something or not. So then our next common mistake is, this is super common, and it's kind of a backhanded thing, in the sense that the dog does what you want, but it only does what you want up until the point that you praise it, right? So we're praising too early, which forces us into a pickle to where we're not getting a completed task out of a dog because we have praised it too early. So then it only completes a quarter of what we actually want it to do. Now, coonhounds are one of those dogs. They will work, right? So they will work for however long it takes until they get that praise. You know, they're really driven like that, and that's really all that they're looking for, is a good pat on the back. And if you know your dog pretty well, and your dog's your buddy, you can see it right on their face when they get that good boy. It really cheers them up. So praising too early can cause a lot of hiccups. If we have and it goes along with expecting things out of a dog. If we're expecting a dog to perform a certain way, and the dog goes out and it only does half of that job, and we praise it for half of that job, now the next time we go out, the dog's only going to do half of that job. So we want to make sure that we are completing our task with the dog before we praise, and we want to make sure that we're being mindful of that, because you can cause a dog to only tree for just a short period of time because you gave it praise too early. You can cause a dog to go to the tree, not tree because you praised it for finding a tree and not actually treeing. These very super early stages, when we're first trying to get these guys coaxed around, and just a rough idea in their head, that those early praises are fine. But as the dog gets older and as it matures a little bit, we're going to want to hold praise until we know that the dog has completed the task to the fullest, because you can really throw a dog off by giving it the wrong message and saying good boy or good dog, or however you praise your dog. So that's like one of the biggest mistakes, is giving praise too early. So the third most common mistake, I believe, is that we're overcorrecting dogs, right? So we're overcorrecting dogs, and we're putting too much on that dog. The simplest way that I can explain it to anybody is like I do in the how to train a coon dog solo video, and that is, we only need 3 things out of the dog, and as long as that dog gives us those 3 things, it's doing good. So if the dog is performing, or you want to set out and say, I want to train my dog how to make it to the tree today, but you get it in the yard and it's like wandering off, and you're snapping at it or shocking it, or you're just creating all this stuff. So we're overcorrecting the dog for too many things. We're not streamlining the process to make it a smooth transition from A to B. It's got every letter in between. So we need to make sure that we're making it short and sweet, and we're effectively accomplishing what we want to accomplish without muddying up the dog's brain too much. Because ultimately what it does, if you're overcorrecting a coonhound, is it builds a distrust, and distrust goes a long way with coonhound. I mean, dogs will skate on you. They won't be around when you start walking up to the tree. They'll skate on you. They won't let you catch them. They'll skate, you know, they just want to take off. They don't want to be around you, especially if they know they got you in a predicament to where you can't necessarily get a hold of them. So we want to prevent that. We want to prevent the mistrust with our dogs, so we're not going to overcorrect too much. The third most common mistake that I see a lot, and you see this a lot of guys are so strict on a dog for barking. Now, I used to be that way, and I followed up a couple dogs that being that way. And you have to really resonate and understand the dog and how far you can actually go when it comes down to that, because ultimately you don't want that dog to completely be put off from barking at all, because then you have a real problem on your hands, a problem that probably won't solve for at least a couple years if you're going to hang on to the dog that long. And it's not really easy to remedy that. So we're going to shy away from, especially the barking. We're going to shy away from overcorrecting on bark. So hushing your dog can be a major no-no. It can cost you a lot of time, a lot of training, a lot of patience, and ultimately a lot of guys will just give up on the dog and get rid of the dog, and they don't realize, maybe if I don't tell this dog to hush for a week and then I go train, he's going to open his mouth. Or maybe if I haven't beat it in my dog's head before training, before making it to the woods, before getting barks in the woods, before striking up tracks, that it's not allowed to bark, then we won't have such an issue getting a dog to bark. Now, this is a huge issue. I see this all the time. I see guys posting on Facebook, I can't get them to bark, I can't get them to bark. And literally they know, I know exactly why. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to the next most common mistake that we're gonna have. A lot of guys are too worried about putting a handle on a dog first. Okay, so this goes along with overwhelming the dog. We're not going to overwhelm the dog with too much. We want to get what we came for out of that dog before we start overloading it, because we don't know, this one day of leash training to quit pulling on the leash turns into the dog won't go into the woods. This one day of hushing the dog turns into the dog won't bark in the woods. This one day of whooping a dog on a slick tree turns into the dog won't tree no more. This one day of shooting a coon down fighting and letting the coon whoop on the dog turns into the dog don't want nothing to do with the coon. So there's a lot of things that you can get in the way of yourself when you're training a coon hound, and we want to make sure and be aware of those things, that we're not doing that. We want the dog to have a open road, a straight shot straight to the tree without any hindrance. So we're not going to put too much of a handle on a dog. Coming back is the only handle that you should need on a dog. And because at the end of the day, you're cutting the dog, it's going to stop at a tree, you're going to go out there, you're going to meet it at the tree, and ultimately that's how it works. The only way you even need to recall your dog is if you believe it's running trash, if you believe it's getting on this property you ain't allowed to hunt, or if it's getting in the road, or if it is just getting itself into a bad spot. Then you need that. That is one of the only things that you need on a coon dog, is to recall. And this is what we're going to not follow the dogs up, and keep it very, very simple with them, and allow them to have that open path. And another common mistake that guys make too is, I kind of touched on it, is the stop pulling on the leash. Now, it's really easy. Some of these coon dogs get really big, they're really strong, and they got a lot of drive in them. They want to drag you all over the place. But if you have a pup that is dragging you into the woods, why would you ever want it to stop doing that? We can correct for that after we've established that this dog is going to tree coons, after we've established that this dog is going to do what we want it to do in the woods, so we don't muddy it up and step in its way and get in our own way. Okay, so this just kind of, all these mistakes kind of just go hand in hand, and a lot of guys make every single one of these mistakes and they wonder why they don't have a dog. So another mistake that guys make is showing too many coons. Okay, so I go over it in the How to Train a Dog solo video. I'll show up to like 3 coons, and that's that. But if you just get a dog completely, absolutely coon crazy, and that's all that it knows, that dog is just going to do nothing but be dumber than a box of rocks and bark at a coon. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to run you a tree. It's not going to run you a track. And a lot of these dogs, is you'll see them, and you see the guys post a video, he's coon crazy, and this dog is just going rabid for this coon. but you take it in the woods and it just does nothing. It's because it's been taught nothing other than look at that and bark at that, and that's the only thing that's been praised for. So it turns into being praised too early. It just, like, all these things turn into a ball of a mess for a dog, and then you end up with a dud. You end up with a dog that won't track, won't tree, won't strike, won't bark, won't leave your feet. Another thing is people make a common mistake, and I'm going to put this in there, and if anybody knows any different, is quit feeding your dogs before you hunt them. Okay, there's a lot of bad things that can come out of that. Running a dog on a full belly, or a dog that just ate and then taking it to the woods. Don't do that. At least feed early, super early in the day, or way after when you get home, so that dog doesn't have any chance of hurting itself or getting sick. So feeding right before you hunt, and it takes a lot of drive out of the dogs. And I touched on this in the videos on how to train a solo coon dog. Okay, so this is starting to turn into a little bit of a long video, so I'm going to wrap it up, and this is going to be the one mistake that you guys might not even understand that you're making, and this is making a light dog. Okay, so a light dog is a dog that will only hunt in your light. So if I'm shining my light this way, the dog is in the light and he's hunting in the light. If I shine my light this way, he comes over here and hunts in the light. If I click my light off, he comes right back. He don't want to go nowhere. If I turn the light on, he only goes to the edge of the light. A dog that is basically scared of the dark and only wants to hunt in your light. I mean, I had a guy that I was working with and helping start some pups, and he didn't understand that he was making a light dog, and I was trying to explain to him, these guys are only running in the light, and he's like, no, I don't believe you, I don't believe you. So I was like, okay, take your light, walk down there about 50 yards, whatever it is, and shut your light off. Okay, so he shut his light off, his dog stayed there. I clicked my light on 50 yards away, and the dogs immediately ran to me with my light, and I shut mine off, and he clicked his on, and they immediately ran back. And I was like, that is the definition of a light dog. So we have to make sure that we're killing those lights when we're starting dogs off in the woods. Now, if your dog already has shot off and ran a track a couple 100 yards, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if they're having an issue taking off or getting off a little bit more than 20-30 yards, it's probably because you're constantly lighting that dog up and watching that dog's every move, which in the beginning stages, and especially when they're puppies, it's real easy to do that. But it's a real bad behavior to create with the dog, to where it only wants to hunt in the light. I mean, people can snap your dogs up out of the woods just by shining a flashlight, and we have to really pay attention to that. And we have to make sure our dog gets ample solo time in the woods, even if we are training with other dogs. But I'll save that for another video. Thanks for stopping in. If y'all want to hear anything, my opinions on anything, or y'all have any questions, just drop them right down there in the comments, and I will try to at least answer the comments, or at least make a video answering your question. But thanks for stopping in. Please hit that like and hit that subscribe, and welcome to Mel Brooks Studios and Entertainment. That's my channel. Keep them treed.